Today, I'm going to talk about my 6 favorite beverages for fighting dangerous excess body fat: green tea, Pu-erh tea, coffee, tomato juice, watermelon juice, and water. Drinking these can lead to weight loss and an optimized metabolism, which means better overall health. Let's dive right in. Okay, first, let me tell you the real reasons that you should be worried about body fat, specifically excess body fat. Now, most people react to the word fat in a very negative way, right? If you think about fat, we all have had this experience of taking a shower in the morning, walking out of the shower after toweling off, and then out of the corner of our eye in the mirror, we actually see a lump or a bump that we didn't expect and didn't want to see, right? And we immediately think fat, and we go, damn, that's not what I wanted to see. I got to lose some weight. The other example is if you've ever gone to a grocery store where you're pushing a cart and wheeling yourself by the butcher section. Even if you're a vegan, you've probably done this. Out of the corner of your eye, as you're passing through, you see like a big ribeye with a big rind of fat around it, right? Big white round of fat. And you go, oh, that's disgusting. That fat, I hope nobody eats it. It's got to be unhealthy. So we in society have really come to associate the word fat with a really negative sense, right? However, there is situations where fat actually is good, right? And that is when we see a baby, a little baby, pudgy baby is fat. And when you see a little fat, pudgy baby, that makes everybody smile, right? Okay. And so you know that fat can't all be bad. Why are babies so fat? All right. And so one of the things that you need to know is, how does body fat form anyway? And why is it important, if it is? And why does it become dangerous? So that's what we're going to talk about first before I actually dive right into those beverages. So first of all, you need to understand that when your dad's sperm met your mom's egg and they fertilized, and you were just a ball of cells, the first tissues that form were blood vessels, because every organ is going to need a circulation. Then nerves form, because every organ is going to need an electrical system in order to be able to power them up. And then a short time afterwards, fat forms. That's right. Body fat forms long before you had a chin to be double, long before you had a waist to actually have a muffin top, or thighs to actually get fat. Fat forms really early on. And by the way, when they form, you know where they form? They form right around blood vessels, okay? Kind of like a bubble wrap. Think about wrapping a blood vessel around with bubble wrap, with each of the little air cells of the bubble wrap being a fat cell, wrapping right around blood vessels, right? You haven't really even formed you haven't formed your belly yet, and body fat's being formed. So what is the reason that fat is forming, and why around blood vessels? Well, this has to do with the fact that our fat, your body fat, actually has a lot of different functions. Now, one of the functions, obviously, with fat is that it's a cushion, right? Boing, right? The airbag in our body. And in fact, if we didn't have any body fat, we would be very, very fragile. I mean, think about how fragile, how delicate your organs are. If you tripped on a rug and you fell down, boom, splat, and hit yourself, if you had no body fat, your organs might rupture. All right. Thank goodness we've got some padding for body fat. Another role of body fat, which is really, really important, is that it is a fuel tank. And this is why body fat forms around blood vessels. So when I say a fuel tank, think about a car, right? In a car, you've got a fuel tank. It's usually located on the right or the left-hand side behind the passenger seat. You pop open the door on it, and there's a hole, and when you fill up your gas tank, you got to put the nozzle right into that fuel tank, push the button, and you fill it up, right, all the way. And the fuel tank actually goes from empty to full. Well, our body's fuel tank is our body fat. That's one of the reasons why the fat cells form around blood vessels, because guess what? When we eat food, food is our fuel. We don't call it gallons or liters. We call it calories. So when we eat food, that is our fuel, and we're eating it It goes down into our stomach, gets absorbed into our bloodstream, okay? And in our bloodstream, it's got to get stored someplace. And the fuel tank that it gets stored is in our fat, our body fat. This is one of the reasons why body fat's actually located around blood vessels, because it is the fuel tank. You put the fuel right into the tank, right where the fuel is actually flowing, okay? Makes sense? All right. Now, in a car, the fuel tank is metal. It's really solid. And when you fill up the gas tank, when you get to the top, that's it. You know, the clicker on the nozzle goes click. And now, because the tank is full and everything stops, right? Then you take out the nozzle and you put it away and you drive away. Okay. Our body fuel tank isn't rigid like a car's fuel tank. Our fat cells, our fuel tanks, actually can stretch. In fact, the fat cell can stretch 3 times its size, 300% of its size when you're filling it up with fuel. And that's why fat expands. You ever wonder why it is that fat, gets bigger? It's because it's a fuel tank that can actually expand like a balloon. So when you actually fill up your tank, if you aren't done eating and you keep on filling it by eating more food, the tank will expand, right? And because fuel tank can expand, but you got a lot of fat cells. And so you can load up another one that will expand 3 times its size, and another one that can expand 3 times its size, and another one that can expand to 3 times its size. And if you run out of fuel tanks, guess what? Your body has stem cells, fat stem cells specifically. These are called, pre-adipocytes. And they can actually become fat cells. You can make more fuel tank in your body by making more fat cells. And you're still eating? No problem. We can actually expand it even more. And this is why overconsumption, overeating of any type of calorie, even healthy food, is dangerous, because it actually is expanding your body fat. Now, as your body fat expands, and one of the things that happens is that the fat grows bigger and bigger, and it can outstrip its blood supply. And when that actually happens, the part of the fat in the middle can become hypoxic, meaning it doesn't get enough oxygen. And that is the setup for inflammation. And this is why fat, excess body fat, when you've overloaded, actually is dangerous, because it is pro-inflammatory. Just by expanding the mass beyond its blood supply, that's actually going to trigger inflammation. And the inflammation, as the fat gets bigger and bigger, basically seeps out of the fat and gets into your bloodstream. And now you've got inflammation everywhere in your body. And this is why we tell you not to overeat, because when you overeat, you actually set yourself up for overloading on fuel. Now, if you were in a car and you were overloading your fuel tank, what would actually happen? Let's say that the clicker wasn't going on the nozzle. Well, the fuel tank would fill up. It would flow out of the fuel tank, down the side of the car, around the tires, and the fuel would start to pool around your shoes. Then it puts you in a dangerous situation. Now you're standing at the filling station in the middle of a dangerous, flammable, toxic mess. Same deal in the body. When you overflow your fuel tank, that fuel can actually come out. In fact, there is a leakage of fat that can actually happen if you really overload, and that actually gets into your liver, and now you can actually have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because of spillage of fat out of this growing toxic fat, right? Okay, back to the beginning, right? Fat actually is a cushion. Fat is a fuel tank. You can come back to that. That's super important when it comes to the beverages you want to drink. And then the other thing about fat is that it is an endocrine organ. That's right, it's an organ. Did you ever think about fat in your body as an organ? Well, it is, all right? And as an organ, endocrine means that it actually produces hormones. And as an endocrine organ, it is every bit as important as an organ as your liver, your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your adrenal, your thyroid. And endocrine organs, which produce hormones, actually are involved with controlling your key functions in your body. Now, what does fat do as an endocrine organ? All right. And I promise I'm going to get back to the beverages. You'll get there. But the reason I need to tell you this is because we're not trying to get rid of all body fat. We just need to kind of tame it so we don't have too much. Now, as an endocrine organ, fat releases many, many different types of hormones, over a dozen different types of hormones. One of them is called adiponectin. Adiponectin, adiponectin. Now, this is a really important hormone, because what it does, made by fat, is that it works with your insulin. So it's adiponectin plus insulin forming a team to help your body draw in blood glucose into your muscles and into your fat in order to be able to have your glucose control be more efficient. Now, without adiponectin, your insulin is not going to work so well. So, what do we call that? Insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome. So, one of the hormones that actually helps insulin do its job, so your body has proper insulin sensitivity, so your blood glucose can be managed in a healthy, normal way, is you need adiponectin made by your body fat. That's one of the reasons why fat is actually an important organ and an important tissue. All right. So let me just tell you how important adiponectin is. If you came to a clinic and had your blood drawn, let's say you came to my clinic and we actually had your blood drawn, sent it off to the lab and asked the lab to measure every single hormone in your blood, including adiponectin. Do you know what would come back? You get a lot of adiponectin. In fact, adiponectin would be found to be 1,000 times higher in your blood than any other hormone. That's how important adiponectin is. That's how important your fat is as an endocrine organ, because adiponectin helps your metabolism work, works with insulin as a partner, all right, in order to be able to help your body regulate glucose and bring that glucose, that energy, into your muscles in order to be able to have enough energy. All right, glucose absorption. The other hormones that fat makes is leptin, for example. Fat makes leptin. Leptin is a hormone that acts on your brain that makes you feel full. That's why leptin is known as a satiety hormone. So when you got leptin, you're not so hungry anymore. That's an important thing, because otherwise you'd be ravenous and eating all the time. And so fat actually signals to your brain, oh, whoa, let's stop eating. All right. That's healthy amounts of fat. Okay. Now, what happens when you have too much fat? Remember I told you, when you load up the fat fuel tank and another one and another one and another one, and now you get the stem cells to make even more, you got a big cushion growing, all right? Like a gigantic marshmallow that's expanding. And inflammation. Inflammation actually disrupts the hormones that are being secreted by fat. When inflammation disrupts the endocrine hormone function of fat, guess what? Adiponectin doesn't get secreted normally. Remember I told you, adiponectin works with insulin to help your metabolism control blood glucose. So you've got normal regulation of glucose in your bloodstream. So when you have too much fat and inflammation and not normal adiponectin, now your insulin isn't working properly and you've got insulin insensitivity, and now your glucose is going all over the map. Does that make sense? This is really why we always say you got to control that excess body fat no matter what you do. It's super, super important. The other thing is that by derailing the fat hormones like leptin, remember I told you, leptin acts on your brain and makes you feel full. What happens when there's inflammation that disrupts, derails leptin? Well, guess what? Now you're not feeling so full. So you're more likely to eat. And when you're more likely to eat, you're more likely to overflow the fuel tank. When you overflow the fuel tank, you're making more fat. When you're making more fat, you're getting more inflammation. Inflammation disrupts the adiponectin and the leptin even further, and you keep on eating and eating and eating, and you get more inflamed, right? Now, this is all the setup for chronic diseases that we've talked about in so many contexts when it comes to health and wellness. You know, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, everything from hypertension to heart attack to heart failure, diabetes, cancer, dementia, all of those conditions, all right, can be linked when there's actually too much harmful body fat, all right? Okay, so we said fat's a cushion. Fat is a fuel tank. Fat is an endocrine organ. So we need healthy amounts of fat. We need some of it, but we don't need too much of it, all right? So you got to tame it. So again, excess body fat is dangerous because it throws off the function of normal, healthy fat, all right? Normal, healthy fat is not only a cushion, not only a fuel tank, but it actually releases the hormones that you need to be able to have a healthy metabolism to control your glucose, because there's a partnership with insulin and also with leptin, which controls your hunger and your appetite. Okay, so if you don't have too much excess body fat, you don't want to build it up, all right? So even if you're in good shape, you don't want to get out of good shape by building too much body fat, all right? Now, by the way, by the same token, too little body fat, all right, that ultra lean body mass, that marathoners do and bodybuilders do, they get way down, 5% body fat. What happens? Women stop menstruating. Men wind up actually getting sicker, right? You just actually lose a lot of the functions in your body that fat actually helps to regulate. So too little, bad. Too much, bad. Just the right amount is exactly what you want to actually have. Okay, so if you have too much fat, what are you going to do? You got to burn it down. You got to actually try to tame that extra body fat, bring those levels down so you can restore your metabolism, all right, in order to be able to stay healthy. And by the way, by losing body fat, not only will you lower inflammation, you're going to lose weight as well, all right? And you're going to actually reverse some of those negative consequences. So you can do this with beverages, all right? And the beverages can actually activate your body's ability to burn away extra body fat. Now, got to explain to you something. How do you burn away extra body fat? What do I mean by burn away? Well, burn, right, is basically like taking a match, striking it, and lighting something on fire and burning it away, burning it down. So in the body, burning down extra body fat actually is done by a process called thermogenesis. Thermo for heat, genesis, making heat. Now, how does thermogenesis happen in your body? Well, if you think about it, if you have a gas range in your kitchen, right? What do you do when you want to boil some water? You gotta turn it on, right? You go to the switch, turn it, click, 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 whoosh. Now you've got heat. You've generated heat. Now you can put your pot of water on top to make tea or boil your soup or whatever you're actually going to do. But the key is that you have generated heat on a gas stove. And that's exactly what your body can do. It can actually undergo thermogenesis because let's go back to the kitchen for a second. When you turn on the clicker, click, 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 whoosh, and now you've got the flame on the stovetop. Guess what? The stove, that flame, okay, that burner is drawing down gas, energy. It takes energy to burn. It's drawing down fuel from maybe a gas line, goes to your town, or maybe a gas tank on the side of your house, right? So in your body, when you generate heat, thermogenesis, click, 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 whoosh, where does that energy come from? Guess what? Your body's able to draw down that extra energy stored in your excess body fat. And that's why thermogenesis burns down your excess body fat, all right? I'm giving you a fairly straightforward and somewhat simple explanation of a pretty complicated process, but I'm giving you enough details so that you get my point, all right? So if you want to burn down extra body fat, thermogenesis is one way that your body does it. And the type of tissue that can do thermogenesis, guess what it is? Body fat. And you're like, wait a minute. I thought we were trying to burn away body fat. Okay, this is where we got to talk about the two types of fat in your body. There's white fat and brown fat. White fat is the part that grows, bigger and bigger and bigger, and it comes into two forms. It's subcutaneous and visceral. Subcutaneous means under cutaneous skin, under the skin. Subcutaneous white fat, which can become harmful if there's too much of it, is the fat under your chin, it's the fat under your arm, it's the muffin top, it's the fat on your thighs, it's the fat on your butt. That's the stuff most people don't want to have, all right? But that's actually not where the most dangerous excess body fat actually grows. Because white fat can also grow, not subcutaneous under the skin, but also inside the tube of your body. Now, I don't care what size your body is. You could have a big body, 6'5", like really big guy, or you could be a thin, super thin person, right? We all know them. People that are ultra thin, they don't look like they have any body fat, but guess what? White fat is also found inside the tube of your body, right? Like our bodies, we're a tube, right? Inside that tube, there's also white fat. That's called visceral fat. Visceral meaning gut. This is the fat around your gut. Now, visceral fat is normally distributed a little bit in your body, and it does all the things that it's supposed to do that we talked about. The cushion, the hormone, the fuel tank. But when it actually is in excess, too much visceral fat, that's the real dangerous part, because inside the tube of your body, when visceral fat grows, it grows like a glove that wraps itself, like a baseball glove that wraps around your organ. Not good. right? And then inflammation around there actually inflames your organs as well. Okay, so that's one kind of fat, white fat. And you want to burn it down to actually good, healthy levels. So what's the second kind of fat that I was alluding to? Well, that's called brown fat. White fat, when it's too much, is bad fat. Brown fat is always good fat. All right. Now, what is brown fat? Brown fat is very different than white fat. White fat can be lumpy, bumpy, right? Brown fat, and it's under the skin. You can see it under the skin. Brown fat is not lumpy, bumpy. It is wafer thin, and it is close to the bone, pressed around the side of your neck, underneath your breastbone, a little bit between your shoulder blades, a little bit scattered in your belly. And this brown fat is a special kind of fat that can undergo thermogenesis. Click, 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 whoosh. All right. And that's the brown fat, when it's activated, can burn down the white fat. It can actually burn down, you consume all that fuel, extra fuel that's there to burn it down and get it back into shape. It's a pretty cool system, right? It's like a self-defense system, regulating. And yeah, it does generate some heat as well. And by the way, this heat generation from your brown fat, originally, brown fat was discovered in hibernating animals, right? Think about it. A hibernating animal is walking around all summer looking in good shape. And then come fall, it's going to get ready for the winter before it crawls into a cave. And it's going to eat and stuff its cheeks. And the slim animal is going to get turned into this big, round, fat animal, waddle around. And then it goes into its burrow. And it's going to hibernate all winter. Now, it's not going out to eat. It's just hibernating. How does it stay warm in the winter? And how does it get its energy to stay alive? Well, this is where brown fat comes in, because in hibernating animals, that's where brown fat was discovered in an alpine marmot, kind of like a woodchucky looking animal in Central Europe. They discovered that this brown fat would go click, 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 whoosh in the winter, and it is actually consuming and burning down all that extra stored white and visceral fat that the animal loaded up on. That heat keeps the animal warm, and the energy that's in there is also kind of keeping, and that extra fat is keeping the animal alive. So when the animal comes out of the cave in the springtime, actually it's burned down some of that fat, and now it's getting ready to go get in shape again and exercise in order to mate. All right, so this is brown fat. Humans have it too. It's a really interesting story of how it was discovered. I'll do it in another video. But the science is so fascinating, how we discover these kind of things about the human body. We are still learning more and more things about the human body, that we're still discovering things. That's what I'm saying. It's really cool. Okay, so brown fat can burn down white fat. It does it through thermogenesis. One more point about brown fat. You know why brown fat is brown? Once I tell you, you're going to always remember. So first of all, how is it that brown fat burns down fuel? Well, it actually powers up using these little organelles, mini organs called mitochondria. Now, you've probably heard about mitochondria. They're the fuel cell of a human cell. They're like little battery packs, nuclear batteries inside all of our cells. They give our cells energy. And in brown fat, there's a lot of mitochondria, all packed together because it's got to generate heat, right? The fuel cell, the energy, the battery, the nuclear fuel, all right, the fuel cell. Now, mitochondria have a lot of iron in it, okay? And what happens to iron? If you had a pile of nails made out of iron and you left them outside, shiny silver nails, what's going to happen? Guess what? They're going to oxidize over a couple of days, and they're going to turn brown. All right, so brown fat packed with mitochondria to generate the energy. Mitochondria's got iron in it. The iron oxidizes, and that's basically what you get. You got little rusty mitochondria in there. That's why brown fat is brown. That's why you're going to remember this. Brown fat versus white fat. Brown fat's good fat. White fat is also good until there's too much fat, and then the brown fat has to burn it down. That is one of the critical mechanisms for our metabolism. And by the way, why do we want to burn it down? Just going to say it again, because you want to get that fat level down so it's not inflamed. Got to lower that inflammation, and you got to reset the fat's hormonal ability to be able to release adiponectin, which works with insulin to control your blood glucose so that you actually have a good, healthy level of glucose. This actually prevents insulin insensitivity. And you want to actually get that fat level down so that your leptin, which is made by body fat as well, can help control to your brain and tell your brain that you're full. And so you're not overeating as well. All right. So super, super important points about body fat. I've taken you on a little kind of mini lecture about fat that most people actually don't know anything about. So now you're sort of familiar with body fat. Now let's talk about how you can actually turn on thermogenesis. Turns out that there are different ways of turning on your brown fat to go click, 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 whoosh. One thing is cold temperatures, right? We talked about the hibernating animals. Yep, you lower the temperature, you can turn on brown fat. And by the way, this is actually how cold plunges work. When you get a cold plunge, you are actually turning your brown fat. That brown fat goes click, 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 whoosh, and it starts to burn down extra body fat, even in a skinny, fit person. And now you've actually improved your metabolism. And this is part of the reason why cold plunges actually work. They're actually good for you. I don't encourage everybody to do it. It's not something that I think should be really a routine practice for everyone. You should definitely talk to your doctor, but before you start doing a cold plunge, cold temperatures can do lots of other things to your body as well. But it just shows you why it works. Remember those hibernating animals, they're getting into the cold, and that's triggering on the thermogenesis. So cold can turn on brown fat, but so can certain foods. And in my book, Eat to Beat Your Diet, all right, here it is right here, Eat to Beat Your Diet. I write whole chapters about about the different foods that can actually go click, 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 whoosh, turn on your brown fat to burn down your white fat. It's really, really, really cool. It's not just foods, beverages too, all right? Now let's talk about the beverages, and let's talk about how they work. So beverage number one is green tea, all right? Now there's so many reasons that green tea is good for your health. Green tea improves your metabolism. Green tea can help cut off the blood supply to cancer. Green tea helps your stem cells. Green tea is good for your gut microbiome. Green tea is an antioxidant. Green tea is good for your immune system. Green tea can actually trigger thermogenesis as well. Click, 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 whoosh. All right. And how does it do this? It does it with a polyphenol. It's called a catechin. And the specific one in green tea is called EGCG. E as in Edward, G as in George, C as in Charlie, G as in George. What does it stand for? Epigallocatechin 3 gallate. EGCG. I don't expect you to remember it. I'm just telling you what it is. We know what it is. All right. And there's many other things in green tea as well, but that's the one that's been best studied and in a lab. And there was actually a clinical study looking at green tea and weight loss. And this was done at the Isfahan University of Medical Sciences in Iran. And what the researchers did is they studied women who are in a diabetic clinic who had metabolic syndrome. This is where those fat hormones are already out of control, insulin insensitivity. Metabolic syndrome is actually a specific condition that's pre-diabetic. It's where you have high lipids, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high body fat, and a big expanding waistline. All right. Big waistline means that inside the tube of your body, the visceral fat's growing and stretching it out. All right. Now, these researchers gave half the subjects 1 cup of green tea to drink 3 times a day, right? So think about it, 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Pretty easy to do, not a big ask. And they gave it to them to drink the tea to drink 3 times a day for 8 weeks, all right? And another group just got a placebo drink and no tea, all right? And at the end of 8 weeks, the tea drinkers lost more weight, all right? And they also had a smaller waist circumference as well. What that means is that drinking the tea activated the brown fat, click, 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 whoosh, through the catechin in tea. By brown fat burning down white fat, the visceral fat inside the body shrank, the waist size decreased, all right? And it did it at a pretty reasonable dose. The food dose for this tea, the tea dose was just 3 times a day, easily achievable by everyone, right? And remember I told you that green tea has so many other benefits as well, including starving cancer, protecting your stem cells, aiding your gut microbiome, the things I actually mentioned. Now, here's a little tip, practical tip I have for you about drinking green tea. All right. There's so many ways of getting green tea. The traditional way that most people are familiar with is just buying green tea in a tea bag. All right. But you got to be careful about green tea in a tea bag. First of all, tea in a tea bag is usually not the highest quality tea. All right. The stuff they put in the tea bag, nobody sees it. So they put, like, the tea companies put the little bits, the dregs of the tea flakes into the tea bag. You might not be getting the highest quality part of the leaf. Secondly, is that tea bags have been shown to release microplastics. Now, you're like, wait a minute, tea bags are made out of paper, right? Yeah, but the tea companies the tea bag makers spray plastic around the outside of the tea bag, even a paper tea bag, to help the bag, prevent the bag from, like, breaking apart once it's actually in the water, right? And we now know that tea bags can release a lot of microplastics. In fact, up to 1 billion particles, microplastic particles, into a cup of tea just with one tea bag. That's not something I want in my body. Recent studies have actually shown that microplastics are not only found in the human blood, but it's actually found even in the blood vessels, including the plaques that can actually clog up our blood vessels. And microplastics have been found in human fluids, breast milk, human semen in men. In the testicles, they found a microplastic. They found it in a penis. And they've also found microplastics in the human brain. In fact, you can even put the brain on a scale, and you can actually weigh the amount of plastic that's actually in the brain. All right, that's pretty scary. So I generally tell people to sort of try to have tea in a different sort of way. What way is that? Loose leaf tea. All right, you can buy tea outside of that's not in a tea bag, that's loose leaf. In Asia, that's usually how tea is consumed. You put it into a teapot, the loose leaf, and the tea is brewed, all right, steeped, and then if it's in a container inside the tea pot, you just pour it out, and you don't get any leaves. But I remember growing up in my family, people would actually just put loose leaf teas into a mug. Once you put hot water in there, the tea leaves, will hydrate up, and they'll just settle to the bottom. And you just sip off the top. No big deal, all right? And because the tea leaves are already there, all you got to do is put more hot water when you need it in order to be able to keep the good stuff going, keep the polyphenols flowing out, all right? That is the way that I prefer to have green tea. So something to consider when you're actually thinking about drinking green tea. The other thing about tea I'm going to recommend is not to put dairy milk in it. Now, I know some people like to actually cut their tea with a little bit of milk or cream. Like, that's a classic English breakfast tea or afternoon tea, with a little bit of cream or milk. But I will tell you that those polyphenols, the catechins, are floating in the water, and if you actually add dairy milk to it, not nut milk, dairy milk, it's fatty, all right? And what happens is that the fat forms soap bubbles around the polyphenols, the catechins, the EGCG, and those fat soap bubbles, when you sip on the tea, the fat soap bubbles have trapped the polyphenols, and as you're drinking it, it actually just gets flushed right down through your system, and not as much gets absorbed into your bloodstream. So if you want the most out of the polyphenols, what you want to do is not add dairy milk or cream, all right? Any dairy product. Nut milks are okay. Nut milks, almond milk, soy milk is also okay. They actually don't cause those kind of soap bubbles for absorption. So if you really want to cut something, use a nut milk or a soy milk, all right? My other little tip about drinking tea. So green tea, the first beverage. The second beverage, another tea. It's called Pu-erh tea. P-U-erh, Pu-erh tea. What's Pu-erh tea? Well, Pu-erh tea is a fermented probiotic tea. Pretty cool, right? It's got a smoky flavor. It comes from the Yunnan province in southwestern China. And it was originally created because this is the kind of tea that not only had a really interesting smoky aroma, so just on the basis of flavor it was interesting, but it was actually used as a digestive, which tells you something about how it's made, right? It's probiotic, it helps you digest, and it's fermented, right? Also traded, lasts a long time. It was traded on the Silk Road, all right? Now, how do you find Pu-erh tea? It might not be a tea that you're familiar with. You can find it in a tea shop. You can order it online, right? These days you can order almost anything. And Pu-erh tea was traditionally found in a solid dry brick, okay, or a little disc, kind of like like in a gym, one of the weights that you actually put for weightlifting, kind of like a solid disc. And originally, when it was made, you just took a hammer and smacked it, and you broke it into little pieces, and you made your tea with those little pieces. Made it super easy to carry around back in the medieval days when they were doing trading by horse or camelback. All right. Now, here's the reason I'm telling you about it. Pu-erh tea has the same thermogenic properties, click, 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 whoosh, as green tea, because Pu-erh tea has the catechins, the polyphenols, the EG, CG, and theanine, all right, which is another bioactive in tea. But Pu-erh tea has something more. It's got healthy bacteria. Remember, I told you it's a prebiotic tea, and they've even identified the bacteria, the healthy bacteria that's in Pu-erh tea. It's called Pu-erh bacillus. Pu-erh bacillus, it's a species of bacteria that has evolved to be growing in Pu-erh tea, right? Amazing, right? By the way, there's a similar bacteria that's evolved over the years to be growing in sourdough bread. This shows you the close connection of our food and healthy bacteria, in cases, are probiotic foods. So Pu-erh probiotic tea helps improve your metabolism. All right. It's got the catechins. It's got healthy bacteria, good for your gut microbiome. Your gut microbiome helps improve your metabolism as well. All right. Does this work in people? Well, researchers in Taiwan have studied Pu-erh tea on body weight and metabolism. The researchers actually enrolled 70 subjects and divided them into two groups. It's usually the way research is done. One group had an extract made from Pu-erh tea, and they had it 3 times a day for 3 months. Okay, and the other group, the other half, got a placebo. And at the end of the study, what the researchers found is that the Pu-erh tea had 5 times better weight loss compared to the placebo group. Okay, and another study on Pu-erh tea found that Pu-erh also reduced the body mass index, BMI, which is one measure of your metabolic health. All right, and the equivalent of Pu-erh tea in these studies, all right, just 2 cups of Pu-erh tea a day. Again, not asking a lot. This is an easy lift to do. 2 cups of Pu-erh tea a day. The equivalent has been shown in human research that you show reduction of body weight, improvement of metabolism, and the EGCG, click, 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 whoosh, activates the brown fat to burn down harmful body fat. I know this stuff seems kind of confusing, but hopefully as I talk about it more and more, you kind of see it's actually pretty straightforward. Your body's responding to what you feed it, in terms of what you're consuming with these foods, in order to be able to actually activate your own systems to burn down extra body fat. Okay? Beverage number 3, my favorite, coffee. All right? And I know people cheering in the background. Coffee is something I drink every single day. Coffee has a bioactive. It's called chlorogenic acid. All right? And chlorogenic acid has been shown by researchers to burn body fat. All right? Click, 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 whoosh, burn it right down. And clinical studies have been done to prove that this actually happens. Researchers at Harvard, Singapore, and Switzerland did a study where they recruited subjects. These are men and women, ages 39 to 69, right? So sort of adults. And these adults were overweight and they had insulin resistance. Remember I told you, adiponectin from your body fat works with insulin to be able to help make glucose be absorbed into the body for energy, right? And when your adiponectin is upset because you've got too much body fat, the inflammation throws off the adiponectin. Now you've got insulin that's not working well by itself. You've got insulin resistance. So that's what these people actually had, all right? And one group in this research study was given 4 cups of coffee to drink per day for 6 months. Now, for some people, that seems like a lot of coffee. Me, I could chug down 4 cups of coffee, no problem, pretty quickly. Now, the other group in this research study had a placebo to drink that looked and smelled like coffee, right? Everybody knows if what coffee smells like, but in fact, there was no coffee in it at all. And at the end of the study, all right, this is a 6-month study. At the end of the study, guess what they found? the coffee drinkers lost almost 5 pounds, whereas the placebo drinkers actually gained 4 pounds. So the difference was 9 pounds. Again, let me repeat. The coffee drinkers, okay, who were drinking 4 cups of coffee per day for 6 months, actually lost 5 pounds. And that's all, the only intervention that they were doing. Whereas the placebo drinkers, which had no coffee in it, actually gained 4 pounds. Down 5 pounds, up 4 pounds. The difference is 9 pounds difference between the two groups. Chlorogenic acid in the body improves metabolism, helps fight body fat. Coffee, good for you. Now, same deal I'm going to talk about with coffee I said about tea. Most people think about adding cream or milk in their coffee. Don't do it if you want to get all that chlorogenic acid, all the best stuff out of it. Use an almond milk or a nut milk, because dairy fat will do the same thing in coffee as it does to tea. It actually forms a soap bubble around the bioactive, and then you're now not absorbing all of it into your bloodstream. Okay, little pro tip there. Nut milk is fine, soy milk is fine, almond, cashew, you name it. That's actually going to be fine. Just don't put dairy milk if you want to get the most out of the chlorogenic acid. Now, it's a healthier choice to begin with. All right. Beverage number 4, tomato juice. Now, I happen to really love tomatoes, and tomatoes are a fruit, by the way, not a vegetable. And tomatoes have a bioactive called lycopene. Lycopene is a carotenoid. It actually helps to make a tomato red. And other red colored fruits like papayas and watermelon. Watermelon actually has even more lycopene than a tomato does. Lycopene triggers thermogenesis. All right. So tomatoes contain lycopene, and lycopene triggers thermogenesis. And studies have been done to show that this works. Now, researchers in Taiwan did a study in which they enrolled 25 healthy women, okay, who are of normal body weight. This is the key. These are females, women, normal body weight, and gave them just 1.2 cups of tomato juice to drink every day. Now, if you just gave me only 1.2 cups of tomato juice, I'd probably want to have some more. But so the point being that this is not a lot of tomato juice, but 1.2 cups of tomato juice to drink every single day for 8 weeks. All right. Most of these studies, 2 months, 3 months. It's really hard to do a study that's longer than that for people to actually be stuck doing only this one thing repeatedly for a long period of time. So 8 weeks, 1.2 cups of tomato juice to drink every day. And the researchers took the body measurements, and they actually measured blood markers as well. Now, at the end of the study, which is an 8-week study, all right, everybody was weighed and they got their bodies scanned. And guess what they found? All right. They found that drinking tomato juice, just 1.2 cups a day, every day for 8 weeks, this is once a day, by the way, led to 1 pound of weight loss, and that's 0.5% of their body fat to be lost. Burned down 1.5% of their body fat led to 1 pound of weight loss. Now, you might say, hey, that's not a lot of weight. When I want to lose weight, I want to lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds. I'm just telling you, this is the power of 1.2 cups of tomato juice with lycopene in it that activates thermogenesis. That's the point, all right? And by the way, when they were measuring the body composition of these subjects who were drinking tomato juice, the tomato juice drinkers, their waist circumference shrank by 1/2 inch. Remember, the waist circumference is the circumference in a tube of the body. When you burn down excess visceral fat, click, 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 whoosh, the circumference shrinks down, right? You can actually tighten your belt loop 1/2 inch caused by just 1.2 cups of tomato juice. Pretty cool. Means that they lost visceral fat. Now, I'll give you a little pro tip about tomato juice. One thing is that, if you're going to go out to buy tomato juice, commercial tomato juice, be really, really careful. All right. Before you buy it, turn it around and look at the ingredient label and make sure it doesn't have added sugar. A lot of beverages out there, the juice manufacturers will actually add sugar and all kinds of other chemicals to it. All right. Flavorings, preservatives, even coloring they're adding to it, right? You want to make something look bright red like fresh tomato juice. So if you want to get tomato juice, I prefer to recommend that you actually make it yourself. All right. Pick it from your garden or get it from a farmer's market or even a grocery store. All right, organic is going to have more lycopene. Story for another video, but organic tomatoes will have more of the bioactive, more of the thermogenic stuff that you want. And you can cook down the tomatoes, and you want to cook it because you know what? You actually get better absorption of lycopene when you actually cook down the tomatoes, then puree it. You want to filter it if you like, but just dietary fiber. So maybe just puree it really fine, then you refrigerate it and you can make yourself a really nice tomato juice. Hey, check this out. I've got a guide on the 5 small daily habits that boost brain health and prevent cognitive decline. And it's free. I share simple, easy to use recommendations that you can add to your routine today. These are habits that I use personally, and it's yours right now for free in the caption below. All you have to do is click on the link below the video. Now, one of the things I actually like to do is squeeze a little bit of lemon in it, citrus. It's got some vitamin C, it picks up the flavor of the tomato juice. And if you want to add some other things that are actually good, and you're going to put it into a blender or you're going to puree, maybe add some celery in it, right? Celery, lemon, you can get it. You can doctor up the tomato juice yourself. You want to add some even more vitamin C, red bell pepper, put that in the blender as well, puree that baby up, and now you've got more vitamin C. Now you get the lycopene. You get my drift. You actually can you can turn this beverage that helps you lose weight by burning harmful body fat. Now you can actually add all kinds of other good stuff to it when you make it yourself, as opposed to potentially having the commercial version that might have added sugar. That's not going to help you lose weight, and other chemicals which can actually damage your gut microbiome and cause all kinds of other effects that you don't actually want. All right. Now, the key thing about tomato juice is that, like most fruit juices, I tell people is drink it in moderation. All right. Unlike tea or coffee, where, you can drink quite a lot of it and get benefit, tomato juice, it's got some natural sugars from the tomato. So be moderate. Okay. Don't guzzle tomato juice for hydration. Drink it and savor it. Enjoy it. All right. If you want to actually add some spices to enhance the flavor, that's great. Do it. Actually, some fine chili powder to it. What this chili powder has, it has capsaicin. Think Bloody Mary mix, right? Homemade, of course. Chili, add some chili powder with capsaicin. You know what capsaicin does? It causes thermogenesis. Click, 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 whoosh. All right. Now the capsaicin, the chili pepper powder, plus the lycopene. Now you're really going to get something there. Plus the spices enhance the flavor and as well as the healthful properties. All right. So make your own tomato juice. Really knock yourself out. Have some fun. Make a big batch. Enjoy it. All right. So, okay. That beverage number 5 related to the tomato juice, because it has lycopene, is watermelon juice. Now, watermelons are a summer fruit, right? So when you see watermelons, they usually come out during the summer. Watermelon is red, has lycopene, same idea as a tomato. And researchers have actually shown you can actually use watermelon juice to improve the amount of lycopene. So here's what you do. You take watermelon chunks, you blend them to make 3.5 cups of watermelon juice. And researchers have actually done this. If you actually blend 3.5 cups of watermelon juice from chunks of watermelon and drink it daily for 3 weeks, you can actually double the amount of lycopene in your bloodstream using watermelon juice. So you can make your own with a ripe watermelon. Now, here's the thing. The lycopene obviously turns on thermogenesis and has all the benefits, metabolic benefits we talked about earlier. I don't need to repeat everything I just said about the tomato juice, but watermelon is not something most people think about as a healthy juice. It's great for hydration, by the way. All right. And watermelon is not that sweet. Did you know that watermelons were originally from Africa and they were not red? They were kind of white. They were not sweet. They were pretty bland. And they were literally cultivated and carried around for hydration under the hot sun. Later on, they were bred and they turned red and they got sweeter. Well, that's what we get to actually benefit from today. So like any sweet juice, if you're going to have watermelon juice for any reason, drink it in moderation. All right. Now, watermelon has its own sugar, so just be careful. If you drink too much of it, you're actually going to be getting a lot of the fruit sugar in there. All right. By the way, how much sugar does watermelon juice have? It has twice the amount of natural sugars than tomato juice. So if you want to go for the lower amount of sugar, tomato juice for lycopene. Tomato juice is a better choice than watermelon juice. But I wanted to tell you that watermelon has more lycopene than tomato juice as well. The other thing you should need to know is that watermelon with the lycopene can actually protect your DNA. Lycopene is a powerful antioxidant, which means it protects your DNA from damage. And think about it. If you're going to go out on a sunny day, bright sun, you're going to get a lot of ultraviolet radiation. Even if you wear sunscreen, you're still going to get it. Studies have shown that if you actually eat watermelon before you go out into the sun for a couple of hours, you can reduce the amount of DNA damage from the sun by protecting yourself with this antioxidant from watermelon, from lycopene, from the inside out. It's like internal sunscreen. Pretty cool, right? Okay, now let's talk about beverage number 6. This is H2O, water, all right? Now, water is the most common beverage in the world. Obviously, clean water is really important. And it might surprise you because water seems like it's such a simple thing, right? How could water possibly help you lose weight? Turns out this has been studied, all right? And it actually works. Here's a couple of ways that water can actually help you lose weight. First of all, when you drink water, there's no calories in it, but water does stretch your stomach out. There's something called a stretch receptor in your stomach, right? So when the water stretches your stomach and activates those stretch receptors, you get the sensation of being full, right? And those stretch receptors in your stomach signal to your brain that, hey, we got enough food. And so you actually feel more satiated. You feel more full. And this means that the next time that you eat, you're likely to eat less. So it actually makes you feel more satiated and less likely to eat more. So if you drink a bunch of water before a meal, you're going to eat less. Little hack there, little trick. All right. So to drink water before eating will help you eat less calories each time. So that's one way that you can actually, water can be helpful. It's cause you to eat less calories. All right. Now, the other thing that water does is it cools your body down, right? Most people are not drinking water that's 100 degrees in temperature or close to body temperature. We're usually drinking room temperature water. Look, I got a cup right here. Might even put ice in it, right? Who doesn't like a cup of ice water? I do. I love it. I usually put ice in my water, actually. Now, when you actually drink ice water, goes down, it feels really great. But guess what? Inside your stomach, you've now really cooled down, put something really cold into your core, right? And so what happens is that the cold water activates temperature sensors in your stomach, right? And those temperature sensors get activated and it sends off a warning to your body. Warning, cold temperature in the stomach at the core level, time to turn on heat. What does it do? It triggers thermogenesis. Now we're back to burning down body fat, right? So the temperature sensors activated by cold water in your stomach not only stretches out your stomach and makes you feel full so you're going to eat less, it also activates thermogenesis. Brown fat burns down white fat. Now you're burning down calories, you're consuming extra body fuel, and you actually get benefits from this. Now, how do we know this is true? Now, researchers from the United Kingdom and Iran worked together to see what would be the effect on weight if you switch from drinking diet soda to just water. So here's what they did. They recruited 71 women who were obese. And these obese women are already in a weight loss program, but they were having difficulty losing weight. So you know people like that. They get into a program and they're still not losing weight. And these women are always regular drinkers of diet soda as well. All right. So diet soda's got all kinds of things that can affect body weight. But what they did is they divided them into two groups. One group continued to drink their diet soda, but the other group, they replaced diet soda with 1 cup of water every day of the week for a year. Imagine that, right? So for a whole year, you can't get on your diet soda. You're going to drink 1 cup of water to swap out for your diet soda. And the other group just kept on drinking their diet soda. All right. So at the end of the year, end of the study, what it was found that the women who drank water lost 17 times more weight than those women who drank diet soda. All right. and they had more stable blood sugar after eating, and they also had improved metabolism and less insulin resistance. Now, this is not just only the effect of drinking water on stretch and temperature sensors. That's part of it, but also diet soda contains artificial sweeteners that damage your gut microbiome. When your gut microbiome is damaged, your metabolism goes out of whack, so you're not going to lose as much weight. Cholesterol is going to go up. Your blood glucose isn't going to go very well. So drinking water basically allows you to swap from one thing to another, actually had metabolic advantages as well. So how effective is this? Well, researchers have calculated if you drank 6 cups of water per day, forget about the 8 to 10 cups of water a day, it's different for everyone. Researchers have calculated if you drank 6 cups of water per day, all right, and your body needed to heat this water up through thermogenesis, you would burn 17,400 calories over the course of the year. And that's enough to burn away 5 pounds of body fat, all right? So here's some pro tips about water, because anybody can get it. Most people can get it. Get your water from a source that's been filtered to try to remove toxins or contaminants or microplastics, right? We don't know the full effect of the microplastics, but we know that they're not good, all right? So microplastics are everywhere, but if you drink water out of a plastic bottle like we all used to, right? You go on a vacation and you're going to get a plastic bottle of water, right? You're on an airplane. What do? They hand out little plastic bottles of water for you to actually drink. Those plastic bottles are shedding microplastic into the water, and you're just chugging it right down into your system. It winds up in your brain, in your blood vessels, in your heart, everywhere. You don't want that. Okay, so much better to drink water out of glass, all right, filtered water out of glass. That's actually the best things, all right? I mentioned to you there was a study where they looked at microplastics that are found in the plaques in clogging blood vessels in people who had in their carotid arteries narrowing, which actually compromised their brain blood flow. They found actual plastic in there in the blockages, and what they found is that if there was plastic in the blockages, it increased the risk of heart attack or stroke by 4-fold. All right, so be really careful. If you're going to buy bottled water, get it out of glass. It's safer. If you have it in your home, get a filter, all right, to be able to take out that microplastics. And by the way, any beverage that you're going to get, fruit juice, tomato juice, anything we talked about, get it in glass, all right? Plastic, if it's in a plastic container, unfortunately, most beverages are sold in plastic containers because they're lighter, all right, and they don't break as easily. It's going to be shedding microplastics. Look, it's impossible to avoid all microplastics in the world, but I'm just telling you, try to cut down if you can't cut out, right? That's what we got to do to try to manage it. Just try to tip the odds in your favor by having less, all right? Speaking of what to watch out for, I'm going to add in, there's a couple of beverages that you do want to avoid if you want to lose weight, all right? So I just told you 6 beverages to consider drinking that are good for you to help you lose extra body fat by turning on thermogenesis. But here are some beverages you want to avoid if weight loss is actually your goal. You want to avoid regular soda. Regular soda has added sugar. In fact, a typical can of soda has like 7 to 9 teaspoons of added sugar. You came to my house and I offered you something to drink. I gave you a glass, no liquid in it, but I gave you 7 to 9 teaspoons of granulated sugar. And I just said, here, drink this. You'd say, no way, Dr. Lee, no thank you. That'd be disgusting. That's what actually is in a can of soda. Now, that amount of added sugar is going to cause weight gain. So you want to lose weight, don't drink regular soda, all right? And, it's been shown. People who drink regular soda actually gain body weight. Another beverage to avoid is diet soda, all right? And we talked about this earlier, the study that we mentioned earlier about water versus diet soda. But let me just tell you, the diet soda is diet because it has non-nutritive sweeteners. These are artificial sweeteners. And what they do is these artificial sweeteners, more and more, they've been actually shown to poison your gut microbiome and cause other types of harm. They damage your gut microbiome. Now, your gut microbiome controls your metabolism, helps you metabolize healthy lipids, It helps your blood sugar work better. So when you damage that, guess what? Your metabolism starts going out of whack. Diet soda, you might not have real sugar in it to elevate your blood sugar, so you're not getting calories while you're drinking the soda. But at the end of the day, you're screwed. You screwed yourself because you've actually damaged your gut microbiome. Now, whatever else you're eating, your metabolism is going to be off. All right. Now, for example, aspartame is one of those artificial sweeteners that have been shown to damage the gut microbiome. Right. So, if you want good gut health, you've got good brain health, good metabolic health, good immune health, and by drinking diet soda, you're actually compromising your gut microbiome. So, ironically, studies have shown that people who drink a lot of diet soda, so they're not getting extra calories from the soda, they actually paradoxically gain weight. Not so paradoxically. We understand now why it actually happens, damages the gut microbiome. All right. So you don't want to actually do that at all. And by the way, don't drink a diet soda out of a plastic bottle because now you get the microplastics in it as well. Now, any beverage you get at a store, even if it's a healthy beverage, kombucha or whatever, always check the label. Make sure that the ingredients in the product you're comfortable with. What's in there? Ask about it, right? Most beverages that you buy in a store are ultra processed. They can contain artificial preservatives, they can create added sugar, artificial sweeteners, artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, all of which can damage your gut microbiome. You don't want that stuff in your body if you are looking to lose weight and optimize your health. All right, well, that's it. I hope you learned a few things about body fat, about the beverages, and about thermogenesis. Thanks very much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Hi there. If you enjoyed watching this video, I know you'll love the next one. Stay here and check it out, and I'll see you there.